KARN News Time 742. Bob Steele with you on First News, and joining us on the live line, Congressman Tim Griffin. Well, as the talks on raising the debt limit continue at the White House, a fifth straight day yesterday, congressional Republicans divided over the proposed and long-shot constitutional amendment that would require a federal balanced budget. Some Republicans are rallying behind the proposed amendment. They're divided over some conservative lawmakers' push to make its passage the price for agreeing to an increase in the debt limit. We wanted to ask Congressman Griffin what he thinks of a federal balanced budget amendment. Congressman Griffin, good morning to you.
I'm a co-sponsor, Bob. Thanks for having me on. I'm a co-sponsor of the balanced budget amendment, and I will vote for the balanced budget amendment. You know, it narrowly failed to pass in the mid-'90s, I think, by one vote. So we've got, I think, a chance to get a balanced budget amendment through. Obviously, that's a long-term solution that would have to go to the states and be ratified. But you know, that's one thing we're doing here. But obviously, that is a longer-term approach to the discipline, the spending problem that this city perennially has.
What do you think of the effort by some of the lawmakers up there to make the passage of the balanced budget amendment the price for agreeing to raise the debt limit?
Well, I have not signed on to that for one reason. There are a lot of deals that I could live with that may not include that. I mean, this is totally hypothetical, but if someone said, hey, well, the deal is we'll balance the budget immediately, or we'll put it on a path to balance immediately, but we won't have the balanced budget amendment, I might still be able to vote for that depending on what it looked like. So I didn't want to box myself in terms of the options available, but I did sign a letter that said, look, I believe in the cut, cap, and pledge, cut, cap, and balance way of doing things. That's where we would cut spending now, put some caps on spending now, and then work on the balanced budget amendment for the longer term. But we'll have to see how the talks go. One thing I wanted to point out, if you'll let me, Bob, is that Moody's came out with their comment on the debt ceiling issue, and what I found interesting is what I've been preaching, and that is they said it's not enough to avoid something negative happening in terms of the rating. It's not enough to just raise the debt ceiling. Whatever deal is agreed to has to address the underlying spending problem and get the spending reduced in order to avoid negative consequences. So the debt ceiling is one issue, but the underlying problem is the debt, and they're not the same. We've got to deal with both.
What do you think of the proposal also requiring a two-thirds vote in the House and the Senate to raise taxes and to have federal spending of over 18%, the level it was back in 1966, I think?
Yeah, that's part of the balanced budget. That's part of one of the balanced budget proposals, and I am actually a co-sponsor of one of those proposals that Congressman Goodlatte of Virginia has co-sponsored or authored. One of the things that's interesting is a lot of people think, well, balanced budget amendment, that's something new. What's interesting is there are quotes from Thomas Jefferson from hundreds of years ago saying that he wishes that he could get a balanced budget type amendment in the Constitution. So this debate has been going on as long as our republic, and the problem is a discipline problem. Ultimately, my predecessors, both parties, Republican and Democrat, both the White House and the Congress, historically have been unable to live within our means. They've always spent more than we take in. And the problem now is it's compounding. We've got a slow economy, and we've got baby boomers going on Medicare $10,000 a day. And so, folks pay into Medicare all their lives, and the average person pays in about $100,000. Well, they get about $315,000 back. The math just doesn't work there, and so we've got to reform these programs to save them, not to get rid of them, to save them. If we want to do, if we do nothing, they disappear. So we have to take some reform steps to save them. That's why a lot of us have pushed for that to be part for entitlement reform. I know a lot of people don't like them called entitlements, but they're called that because folks are entitled to them under the law. But we want to see that kind of reform to save Medicare as part of the deal.
What do you think of the Democratic argument that your balanced budget amendment is all about political posturing, considering the amendment doesn't really have that much of a chance of passing?
Well, I think it does have a chance of passing. Ultimately, we want it to pass. It only missed it by one vote in the mid-'90s, and there are a couple of different versions, and we will hopefully, I'm going to be advocating that if the first version doesn't pass, that we try the second version. Most states in this country have either a balanced budget amendment or some sort of law, like Arkansas, that keeps you from spending more than you take in, where you basically forces you to balance the budget. And we need something like that here in Washington. And, I mean, folks have to balance their budgets at home, and most states have to do it. We would not be in this mess if we had it now. And so I think, but that is a long-term deal, and we need to manage expectations on that because that will take some time to get through. Well, and one thing I like to point out, if there is a deal, and there will be ultimately, I'm sure, on the debt ceiling, we shouldn't confuse that with addressing the debt, because the numbers that have been thrown around as part of the deal to get the debt ceiling raised will not address our deficit and debt problem. They're just not big enough. We're running a $1.6 trillion deficit in the red every year, and the biggest plan talked about cuts $400 billion a year. Well, that still leaves $1.2 trillion in the red every year. So we may get some kind of deal to raise the debt ceiling at some point. I'm sure we will. But that's not going to address the broader problem of the debt. We need to do both. And what I'm really aggravated about is I don't see anything being discussed that truly deals with our spending problem.
All right. Congressman, thank you very much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.